Main Behavior and Healing by Wiley Denard. Welcome letter. Hello and welcome, viewers. My name is Wiley Denard, and I am a freshman at Ohio State Lima. What you're about to read is a summation of the research that I've completed this semester, and I hope that you walk away more informed about the different causes and treatments for trauma. My goal for this presentation is for all viewers to understand that regardless of the cause, trauma is similar in all cases and can be a point of connection for a lot of people, reminding us that we are all the same in unseen ways. Information that I will be discussing includes trauma resulting from hate crimes, a soldier's experience in war, and the civilian experience in war, along with the treatments that are often put into place for victims of these traumas. Literature review. This section of my presentation will serve as a recap of my research for the semester. Focal article. The main article that I chose for my second major project of the course was titled Freedom from Hatred, the Role of Kanti in Complementing the Work of International Humanitarian Law. This piece of writing focuses on the Buddhist practice of Kanti, which translates to patience, tolerance, and forgiveness. This article allows its readers to see the humanitarianism within Buddhism and allows them to see the positive impact that it can have on people. I will now go into each of the four phases I used when trying to understand and research for this paper. The four phases. The first phase of any research project is the semantic phase. This is the time when you focus on the repeated words or phrases in a piece of writing, and from those you can form an idea of what the paper or presentation is about. The repeated words and phrases that I found were anger and hate, non-retaliation, Buddhist teaching, retribution, and forgiveness. From those phrases, I was able to infer that the article was a summation of religious beliefs, Buddhism, in relation to peace and kindness. The second phase I covered was the bibliographic phase. This is the phase where you input references that the author of your main article included in their work, and pieces of writing that you found in the process of choosing your focal article. Some of the other pieces of literature that I reviewed were Thanissaro Bhikkhu's Reconciliation, Right and Wrong, Brittany Ducht, We've Already Endured the Trauma, Graham Danzer's African Americans Historical Trauma, Nikki Kaur Singh's In the Language of Love, and two articles by the International Committee of the Red Cross, What is International Humanitarian Law, and The Roots of Behavior in War, Understanding and Preventing IHL Violations. By doing this in a research project, you can understand your search for a source and what interested you along the way. The third phase of this process is the affinity phase. In this section, you are meant to find connections that the author of your article has professionally. In my case, I learned that my author Alex Wakefield attended SOAS at the University of London and studied under Ulrich Pagel, a professor of Buddhist studies. From searching on websites like LinkedIn, I found that he majored in contemporary Buddhism in college. Some other professional connections I found were collaborative work with a YouTube channel titled Dhamma Center, along with his work with the International Committee of the Red Cross, which published the main article that I discussed. The fourth and final phase is the Choric phase, which is a summation of world events that took place at the time of my focal article was written. These are the events that I chose to include: an attack on a South Korean subway station, the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster, and the death of 23-year-old peace activist Rachel Corrie. On a more positive note, this year also included the delivery of George W. Bush's Mission Accomplished speech, along with LeBron James's NBA debut. Original asset. Definitions. Hate crime. A crime typically one involving violence that is motivated by prejudice on the basis of ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or similar grounds. Humanitarianism. The promotion of human welfare. Trauma. A deeply distressing or disturbing experience that can have a profound physical and emotional impact on a person. PTSD, a mental health condition that's caused by an extremely stressful or terrifying event, either being part of it or witnessing it. Symptoms include flashbacks, nightmares, trouble sleeping, severe anxiety, intrusive memories, and social detachment. First-hand experiences with hate crimes. Asma Jama, a Somali American woman who was brutally attacked while out on a family outing for speaking her native language. Asma said this about her life after the attack. I used to be carefree. I used to go everywhere by myself. I would say hi to strangers. After what happened to me, I felt like I had to look over my shoulder every time I go outside. Luckily for Asma, she walked out of this with few injuries, but it is easy to see the fear that she lives with now, every day. Winfried Rember, one of the only people known to have survived the lynching. In the late 1960s, young Winfried experienced a heightened level of racial-based violence. In one source, he states he was chased by white men wielding shotguns, abducted by police, stripped naked, and strung up a tree with a noose around his neck. Unlike many other African American individuals, Winfried was able to make it out alive. Though he continued his life after this event, the trauma that he developed as a result sticks with him to this day. After noticing him experiencing panic attacks and night terrors, his wife Patsy finally found out about the awful assault that he went through decades earlier. What are the rates of race-based hate crime? According to the U.S. Department of Justice, 52.5% of hate crimes in 2023 were motivated by race, ethnicity, of ancestry. How are these people how are these people receiving treatment to cope with these issues? Psychologists say that professional help and intimate support are equally important in the recovery process for victims. Professional help includes seeing a therapist or counselor, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist. Intimate support could consist of installing security cameras, buying extra door locks, and carrying handheld self-defense items. Pepper spray, taser, rape whistle, etc. What war can do to you, the civilian experience. Researchers found that most civilians of war suffered from mental illness as a result of their war exposure. Most commonly, these individuals are treated for PTSD and depression with cognitive therapy and psychiatric medications. Multiple researchers found focused on intervention placed importance on addressing displacement-related issues such as poverty, unemployment, and housing. By addressing these concerns, trained officials can provide additional support such as case management in tandem with cognitive therapy. While this is the goal for all civilians of war, most healthcare centers are not open to the vast majority of those who are displaced. As a way to compensate, paraprofessionals oversee group therapy and refugee committees, which has proven to decrease feelings of distress and elevate an individual's mental well-being. Damage to Gaza. Since last October, as many as 2 million residents fled from their homes in Gaza after continued demolition and warfare. As of October 7th, 2023, Israel's troops have killed over 42,000 Palestinians in Gaza. It is reported that 60% of all of their buildings have been destroyed or damaged after checking satellites. Inhumane conditions. Civilians in Gaza are living in conditions unfit for humans, and they are suffering brutality at the hands of the Israeli military. The UN humanitarian coordinator, Mohamed Hadi, spoke about the conditions he saw in Gaza City. Hadi claims there were 500 people in this school in September, and now there are more than 1,500 people. There is no access to bathroom. There are shortages of food. The situation is unbearable. Sewage water is everywhere. Waste is everywhere. The place has garbage everywhere. This only allows you to imagine the mental and physical toll that living in this environment causes. CNN published an interactive article perfectly depicting the devastation that most hospitals within the northern Gaza Strip experienced. 20 out of 22 hospitals were reported to be damaged or destroyed within the first 2 months of this conflict. The World Health Organization put out a statement last December saying that none of the hospitals were non-functioning, leaving behind injured patients waiting to die. On November 3rd, 2023, Israeli troops ordered an airstrike which hit a group of ambulances being used to evacuate injured people, ultimately killing 15 people and injuring 60 other individuals. What war can do to you, a soldier's experience. PTSD, previously known as shell shock, is a mental disorder that is developed after any traumatic event, but in this case, it is a result of violent military combat. For veterans, PTSD can manifest in the following ways. Social and emotional distancing from loved ones, erratic behaviors or outbursts of anger, flashbacks and hallucinations, or disassociation and memory loss. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs states that 11 to 20% of veterans who fought in Iraq or Afghanistan suffer from PTSD. According to the Veterans Crisis Line, in 2020 had the least amount of veteran suicides since 2006. The number of veteran suicides was 6,146, which comes out to 17 deaths per day. Trauma and recovery from amputation. During World War I, over 41,000 British soldiers had at least one limb amputation. Physical recovery was often easier for soldiers than mental recovery from an amputation, as the empty sleeve or pant leg is a daily reminder of what they've lost. Physical rehabilitation can cause great feelings of defeat and depression, but with time and hard work, soldiers were able to adapt to prosthetic and walk with little to no issue. As many as 85% of veterans suffer from phantom limb pains after amputation, and sadly, many were told the pain that they felt was all in their heads. Today, veterans suffering from phantom limb pain are prescribed specific pain medications and also receive nerve stimulation treatments in order to decrease their pain and discomfort. Coping skills for trauma of all varieties. Many of these examples of trauma can be helped with similar resources, as trauma all stems from fear, discomfort, or confusion. Through the use of cognitive behavioral therapy, victims of trauma are able to minimize their stress brought upon by the traumatic event. This type of therapy is beneficial because the victim is then able to organize their thoughts and feelings in context to what they experienced and understand that it did happen to them. Dialectical behavior therapy focuses on a level of emotional regulation that the individual holds. This type of therapy can be conducted either individually or within a group setting, both of which can be beneficial for individual participants. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, otherwise known as EMDR, is used to treat people who have suffered from traumatic events and experience mental disturbances as a result. EMDR therapy is used to address a patient's triggers and experiences that are bringing them trouble and pinpoints the root of an issue that needs to be worked through. Humanistic therapy, or humanism, is a discussion-based therapy that focuses on the importance of positive effects of life. Counselors focus on the positive aspects of their patient's character and their growth potential. By doing this, the individual develops a more optimistic viewpoint that can help them become mindful of others and strengthen their ability to heal from negative events. More lighthearted types of counseling include music and art therapy. These types of counseling allow the individual to relay their feelings and emotions in a more artistic sense. A patient may work through trauma with the aid of music as a way to describe what they felt in that moment. With art therapy, patients are able to physically depict the way that an event made them feel. Oftentimes, making your trauma physical allows you to better let it go. Religion as a coping mechanism. After experiencing a traumatic event, some individuals turn to religion and spirituality as a comfort. The reason for this is because they may be struggling to make sense of the event in the context of reality. The positives to this strategy of coping are limiting the effects of trauma by cultivating a positive spiritual relationship, increasing post-traumatic growth in victims, and it can also build your ability to overcome struggles with the help of members in your religious community. Creative Commons license. The Creative Commons license that I chose to use is CC by SA 4.0. This allows anyone who would like to build on my research to do so with any of the content in this presentation. The only stipulation is that they must put their work under the same licensing. Author's reflection. One thing that I have learned while making this research portfolio, and what I hope any viewers learn by the end, is that trauma of all sorts can be treated in a variety of ways. Understanding these types of therapy can allow individuals to get the care they require to heal from the traumas they experienced. The vocal article that I discussed recognized the idea of religion as an effective way to cope with trauma, more specifically the Buddhist religion. The challenge that I came across in this project was formatting. Overall, I had to work to get the results that I wanted visually for this project, and in the end, I was very pleased. For my original asset, I inserted a smaller presentation into the portfolio, including all the information that I gathered throughout my research. The Creative Commons license that I chose to use was CC by SA 4.0. This is because I believe the information that I that I presented is important for individuals of all backgrounds to be aware of. I hope that anyone that wants to further my research uses aspects of my presentation for whatever they choose to create. Technologically, I learned how to insert audio into Microsoft Sway.